I'm sure, like me, you've never seen a generic ballot test this bad for the Republican Party, and it keeps going down. But there are a couple of other numbers that really pop out to me that should scare the hell out of Republicans in Florida, in Texas, in California, in states where there's a lot of redistricting, and that's Hispanics. I mean, I will tell you, you couldn't talk to a Republican operative just 18 months ago that said that the tide has changed forever in American politics. So the Hispanics are breaking wildly towards the Republicans, and they were. And Democrats were saying the same thing. Something has changed. It will forever change the future of politics. Well, as you and I know, the future of politics usually lasts about 6 months. Now, Hispanics, that's about as low a number as I've ever. Mitt Romney was eviscerated for getting 28% of the Hispanic vote. There was a huge postmortem. What do we do? What do we do? Right. Donald Trump is 8 points below Mitt Romney. And same thing with young voters. Young voters were breaking it, I thought, astonishing numbers towards Donald Trump and the Republican Party. The same thing has happened with young voters. A radical break away from Donald Trump, from Republicans. And we're just seeing numbers that appear to be historic, certainly in the congressional balloting.
Joe, you and I have lived through about 3 40-year realignments in the last 20 years. So it's kind of like the old joke about the guy who predicted, 5 of the last 0 recessions. It's the numbers are about as brutal as you could possibly imagine at this point in an election cycle. Midterms are always tough for the party in power. I don't know if I've ever seen a midterm that was shaping up to be this bad this early, expressly because of the choices of the president. This is on his hands. He made the choice to pursue an elective war in the Middle East that he was told could increase the prices of global oil, and he did it, and this is the response. Give him credit, Joe, because in 24, Trump did put together a coalition that made profound inroads, deep inroads with non-white working class voters, Black, Asian, Hispanic, that if they had been sustained would have broken the back of the Democratic coalition, especially when paired with Reagan-style inroads with younger voters that you just mentioned. The problem is he's done nothing to nurture that coalition because he was never interested in sustaining a coalition, Joe, because it's not a larger ideological project. It's not a movement. It's a personality project. Trump is for Trump. He's not creating Trumpism. And I think that gets to the heart of the matter here. He just wants to get big victories for Trump instead of trying to find a way to sustain and grow the coalition that he won in 2024. You and I know what happened in 24. He was running against a deeply unpopular president who pulled out there in the summer, handed the baton to a flawed VP. And I think that goes to the heart of what happened in 24 more than what he did. But still, he put together the coalition he did. And the day after the election has done virtually nothing to sustain the coalition. And the one issue he had that he did live on for a while was immigration. And then because he decided to hand his immigration policy to Stephen Miller, he lost that issue, the advantage on that issue, in the streets of Minneapolis in January.
Well, I was going to say, Willie, not only did he do nothing to sustain the possibility of historic Hispanic growth as far as support for the Republican Party, his policies were seen as actively going to war against Hispanics in America and the horrors that not only they have gone through and Americans being gunned down in the streets, city streets of America. Not only do we have that, but we now have internment camps, and the horror stories that are coming out of internment camps that the Trump administration does not want you to hear about. That's being heard by family members, loved ones, friends of the people that are inside those internment camps, being brutalized, being treated horribly, and there's been a veil of darkness over those internment camps. Congress is not being allowed to go in. The media is not being allowed to go in. It's like nothing I've ever seen in my life in America. That the people that are funding these internment camps through appropriations aren't allowed to go inside the internment camps to see the humanitarian violations that are going on. But guess what? Word is coming out. It is spreading through communities, and you see historically low support among Hispanics. This is one of the reasons why, one of the big reasons why.
Yeah, it's no mystery why the administration doesn't want eyes on what's going on inside of those detention centers. And as we've talked about quite a bit, the deal many Trump voters made in 2024, including many Latino voters, was, yes, get the violent criminals out of the country. We agree with that, too. Get them out of our neighborhoods. But what they're seeing instead is people they know, neighbors, hardworking people, being dragged from their homes, put into detention centers, being dragged from their homes and being deported. That is not the deal that voters made. And many Latino voters now have turned, as you say, it's only been 18 months, completely flipped, in fact, gone below where they were before that election in terms of support for President Trump.